going to try to link our work so far to the European Commission and the new agenda for adult learning. Well, this is the wrong is it? Oh. I think this is the one I'm going to start with. In 2011, the European Commission set up 2 thematic working groups, one group on quality in adult learning and one in financing. And I had the pleasure to participate in the quality group together with Angela here and Graciela and also Emma. So please supplement me if you think that's necessary. I will tell a little bit about our work in the quality group, and I will also draw some outlines from the Alpine study, Key Competence for Adult Learning Professional Studies, and a study for developing the adult learning sector as a background for the work we did in the quality group. Recent European studies shows that the adult education sector is very diverse, and good morning. And it's also cross-sectoral. And this diversity can be seen in the various target groups of adult learning. Subjects covered by adult learning courses, but also in the professional pathways to becoming an adult learning professional. And in the employment situation for adult learning professionals, and furthermore, and also in the competences that are required to work with adults in this sector. And I think that this diversity also make it difficult to develop the adult learning sector as a whole. There is a lot of variation throughout Europe, and it is a challenge also to outline models that could be common for the whole Europe, and we've been struggling with that in the thematic working group as well. There are different kinds of systems. Some systems emphasize the social dimension and focus on social cohesion, community issues, citizenships, that kind of things. And then again, other systems emphasize the individual dimension by stressing processes of personal development and growth, development of competences and skills, and so on. And other systems again focus on work and employment-related issues, such as reintegration in the labor market and upskilling workers. And also, some systems stress the autonomy of the learners and therefore emphasize individual trajectories and portfolios, accreditation of prior learning and experience. And other systems, again, are more inclined to stress the transfer of knowledge, teaching and training courses, and central examination. So it's not easy to meet all these ends and put it together in one model. The Alpine study from 2008 identified the requirements to be an adult professional, and what they found was that there were great variations across Europe. So you can't say that this is what an adult educator actually will need to do his job. It depends on which sector, which dimension, all these things that I just mentioned. They also find that many ALPs, which is adult learning professionals, work on short-term contracts, and often in addition to another job, and they tend to join the profession later in life after gathering work experience somewhere else. So there's very few teachers who aims to be an adult educator when they start their career. The complexity of the adult education field and the wide variety of adult education contexts make this field particularly demanding also for the teachers themselves, or the adult learning staff in a wider sense. They need particular competences like skills, knowledge, and attitudes in order to carry out their professional tasks, such as teaching, managing, program planning, and so on. And this includes well, there's no slide for this, obviously. Here. This includes basic requirements in adult learning, the methodology, but also well, in theory, I'm sorry. It includes basic requirements such as knowledge of adult lifelong learning and adult development, which is the theory base, and also communication competences and social competences, the methodology, and of course the ability to link these two together. And in addition, the adult educators will need specific knowledge about work and life, subject-specific knowledge in which they're teaching, and also some applied knowledge. I think I mixed the number of these. The study lines out 5 pros: professions, providers, programs, procedures, and products that should all get special attention when you're developing quality in adult learning. Professions means that the quality of the adult professions itself should be enhanced. There should be introduced measures to improve the quality. For instance, developing professional profiles, competence profiles, qualification structures, organizing for the professions, and also establishing professional networks and databases that allow evidence-based work. And maybe it's this kind of EBSN Academy course that we are doing here together this week, one contribution to the professional development of the adult learning profession. The providers should also get attention. Proper training of leaders, managers, teachers, and other staff add to quality. Examples of policies to enhance quality, to provide the quality of providers would also include good and transparent policy making, and inspiring leadership, good communication, sound budgeting, good terms of employment, balanced proportional full-time and part-time employment, and stuff like that. And programs. The quality of education and learning is also related to the quality of the content and the programs provided. So program development should also get attention when you're planning and increasing quality. And you need to take in concern the adult learners, and what would be a responsible selection of content and methods, proper ways of assessing or monitoring progress, and also how this program can be adapted. Procedures. In many sectors, including education, many systems are available to help organizations and professionals to manage their work in a transparent way. and also responsible way and accountable way. And measuring the quality when it comes to procedures depends both on local or organizational and national quality systems. For instance, we could look at procedures like teaching schedules, professional codes of conduct, staff development regulations, appointments, procedures for handling complaints, and procedures for dealing with privacy matters. And finally, products. Learning and education leads to many kinds of products. There is, first of all, the quantity of the people served. How many people are we able to reach throughout our adult education efforts? And also, how does the training affect on behaviors, on people's life or work? And there are also more visible products like written output, works of art, audiovisuals, and so on. Then I did this. The other study I would like to mention is the key competences for adult learning professional from 2010. And I don't know if you can see this model, but you will get it later. It's the essence of the study. What they did was they put down a set of competences that are important for adult learning professionals. And they divided it into generic competences, which is necessary for all adult learning professionals, but also a set of more specific competences, which one person does not necessarily need all these B competences, but as a whole, the team of the provider would need all these kind of competences. And there are also listed a number of activities and contexts in which adult learning finds place. I don't know if you can see this, but I can read them. The generic competences that is listed is personal competence, being a fully autonomous lifelong learner, interpersonal competence, being a communicator, team player and networker, professional competence, being responsible for the further development of adult learning, and expertise, theoretical and practical knowledge, being an expert in the field of study and practice, didactical competence, competence in empowering the adult learners, and competence in dealing with heterogeneity and diversity in the groups. And then the more specific competence is competence for assessment of prior experience, learning needs, demands, motivation, and so on. Competence in designing the learning process, competence in facilitating the learning process, competence to continuously monitor and evaluate adult learning, competence in advising on career life, further development, and so on, competence in designing and constructing the study programs, competence in facilitating ICT-based learning, and so on, competence in dealing with administrative issues, competence in marketing and public relations, competence in managing and leading the Adult Learning Institute, competence in managing human resources, and finally competences in management of financial resources and assess of social and economic benefits for the provision. The final study is a brand new one. It was released this autumn. There was an adult education study on the developing the adult learning sector, and it aimed to map interesting practices throughout Europe, and one of Vox's models, the cascading model for teacher training that we use for teaching teachers or immigrants in Norwegian as a second language, is mentioned as one model, and it might be really interesting to take a closer look at that, I think, but not right now. But Sissel here will be happy to tell you more about that model in the break if you're interested. They also wanted to provide ingredients for the development of a framework for quality assurance in lifelong learning. And we've been using the results from this study very actively in our work in the thematic working group for quality in adult learning. They also point out some challenges for improving the quality in adult learning, and they state that there is a lack of overarching quality assurance systems in the adult learning sector, and especially in the non-formal part of adult learning. Even though some countries have some measures in place, that's the general situation throughout Europe. And there is also a need for more comparable information on adult learning provision. It's difficult to get a real overview of what's going on and to be able to compare between countries. Yes. The thematic working group on quality has been working on two different lines. We wanted to make some policy suggestions, and we also wanted to develop a toolbox of draft instrument to support the policy suggestions. And the tools are directed into three priority areas: accreditation of providers of adult learning, and staff quality, and finally indicators. And Angela was the coordinator of the indicator group. Emma over there worked with staff quality together with Graciela, and I've been working with accreditation of providers. The final report from the thematic working group stated out three key messages, and I will not go into detail, I'd just like to mention them. First of all, quality assurance requires a cross-sectoral approach, and there is a need for evidence-based evaluation, and to be able to make a comprehensive approach to quality assurance, we need to complement existing resources and also develop and extend existing resources, and we need to integrate resources into a consistent framework of principles, criteria, and guidelines. And there is a final report from this group that will discuss this a little bit more in detail, and I don't think it's published yet, but as soon as it is, we can publish it on the EBSN website. One of the tools from the thematic working group is outline of a framework for accreditation of providers. And the thematic working group understood accreditation to mean the formal recognition by an appropriate authority that a body or a person is competent to carry out specific tasks. And the proposed accreditation framework comprised 10 quality criteria or necessary conditions for quality, relating to mission and objectives, learner orientation, transparency of information, office and methods, staff competency, HR policy, support for learners and staff, infrastructure and resources, documentation of learning, quality management systems, and relevance and benefits of provision. I will upload these documents to the platform afterwards, so you can take a closer look at what we suggested. For each criterion, there is a description and a key question which unpack each criterion to provide users with a clear guidance of what these key elements actually means. For example, under the quality criterion, the provider has a clear mission. The description sets out what that would mean in practice for a provider and a learner. For instance, the provider has a clear meaning. That means in terms of objective, target groups, and so on. And then the key questions provide guidance and indication on how that criteria might be met by the provider. For instance, are the objectives, target groups, etc. clearly defined and included in the provider's mission statements? The staff quality group has developed a policy checklist for quality assurance of adult learning staff, which I think is very interesting. It's a lot of checkpoints, and this is just one example. The checklist focuses on staff in general adult education, that is second chance or evening schools, liberal adult education, basic skills and migrant education, and with a particular emphasis on the last two, basic skills and immigrant provision. And it covers different areas like legal regulations for the qualification of adult learning staff, regulatory frameworks, career paths, the employment situation, data collection for policy development, systematic and regular promotion of the nature and benefits of the adult learning professions, and quality assurance and quality management. And at the end, there's a box where you can tick off for formal and non-formal. Do we have this, yes or no? For instance, there is a systematic description of the education systems qualifications leading to the adult learning profession, where all learning achievements are measured and related to each other. Do we do that, or do we have that, yes or no? But as I said, I will upload this and you can take a closer look at it later. There's also a staff profiling grid, which is really interesting, and it builds on the model I just showed you about the key competences for adult learning professionals. And it shows how different competences have different degrees of importance in different sectors. So this is the cross-sectoral approach, but we need to split it, because as an adult educator, you can't have competences in all the different topics or dimensions of adult learning. So if you're teaching basic skills, this grid kind of shows what you would need, what kind of competences you would need in order to do that, or to teach migrants. It's a good support for developing training for unqualified staff, and it's also an excellent tool for validation of non-formal and informal learning. And finally, we have developed a set of indicators that will support system-level monitoring, evaluation, and quality of improvement, and also stimulate the debate about adult learning. It is future-oriented. That means they present a vision of what the thematic working group would like to know about adult learning? Well, this is what I plan to say about the studies and the thematic working